Will Trump be impeached before his term ends? 60%, 68%, yes.
Oh,
very limited volume, yes. Very limited volume, 7K only.
But see, here's the deal. If the president does not invalidate elections or seize ballot boxes and so on, I give it 100% probability he will be impeached on a routine basis starting in January. 100%. Unless he seizes or intimidates voters or declares that no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to put those people in. Meaning the people who are voted in, if he somehow denies the ability of Congress to execute its constitutional obligations. So if he doesn't do this, 100% chance he'll be impeached, and often. Now, remember, convicted, you didn't ask me. Impeached is the House. Convicted is the Senate. There's not going to be enough to convict him. But guess what? You impeach him routinely and regularly, it will keep him and the Justice Department occupied for the next 2 years.
Yeah, and he knows.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I'm just thinking while you're speaking, the likelihood this gets out of control, because I've been saying, as you know, for a while the war is over. I'm surprised we got back to where we are now. I knew there'll be some clashes back and forth. Each side trying to get more concessions from the other on the vague MOU that we have. But I didn't expect us to get to where we are now. The intensity of the strikes is significantly less. So the intensity is not what worries me. It's the scale of it, but more importantly, the targeting, the fact that infrastructure is being struck. So yeah, I'm just thinking whether this could get out of control.
So if it wasn't for the fact that Trump was the president, I would say it will not get out of control. I have known in my lifetime, no American president would have allowed this to get this far out, except for maybe President Johnson during Vietnam. He kept escalating, even though the writing was on the wall, the U.S. could not win in Vietnam. I believe that other than Johnson, I think every other president would have more level-headed. Oh, by the way, that was Johnson with McNamara, Secretary of Defense McNamara. Other than that, every other president would de-escalate eventually. I just can't predict this guy. I mean, he's just not. He's not well educated. He's just not well experienced, and it's all about him. So I don't know. And of course, he's got a Secretary of Defense who is a disgraced major. That's it, running the entire Department of Defense. So he's not surrounded by good advisors either. That's the other part of the problem.
If you want to show these images, please, KK, because that links to my next question. This just came out now. Iran published high-resolution satellite images of its missile and drone strikes that struck Bahrain and Qatar. You can see this is the one this first one is in Bahrain. You can see the strike and the targeting of it. And then go to the next one. This is a CNC center of the Battle Co. AI and data center of the U.S. Army in Bahrain. And this one is a logistics depot in Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. Again, every time we see those satellite images, whether it's from Iran or published from OSINT accounts,
yes,
the precision, there's no craters around it or anything. And that goes to my next question. You said something earlier that the Iranis have the ability to strike an American warship.
Yes, I believe that sincerely. Remember, I think it would be a major escalation, but they have the ability to do so.
Yeah, I didn't, with my limited military experience, but speaking to yourself and others with knowledge like yourself, my assumption is that it's going to be very hard, considering the warships are very far from. What is it? All my military guests drink Diet Coke. All of them. It's a thing in the military. All of them have Diet Coke. I think I told you that last time. It's always Diet.
Yes.
It's funny enough, one of the Admiral Mark Montgomery is always drinking Diet Coke or Pepsi, I think Coke. And he's the one that told me that he was telling me that the ability for the Iranis, that was months ago before we see the precision now, the ability of the Iranis to target a warship is a lot harder considering the multi-layered air defense system and the fact they're far from Hormuz. Now, this was, again, I spoke to this before the Iranians got the precision they have now. Now the precision makes me reconsider my position as well, is that they've exceeded everyone's expectations in being able to strike an exact aircraft, an exact depot, an exact data center, and have such a high hit rate.
So I want to be clear that I did not want to imply that it would be easy to sink a U.S. warship. I didn't mean to imply that. I only am stating emphatically it could be done. And you are correct. There are multiple levels of air defense around a ship. That's why the United States would never put our aircraft carriers within hundreds of miles of Taiwan, because we know it's a fact. The Chinese absolutely can overwhelm the aircraft carriers' multi-layered air defenses to be able to break through and to sink them. The same concept could be for a destroyer or other naval ship that was to get in. The Iranians, it would not be easy, but could they do it? Yes. But again, I would ask, what would be their military objective and their political objective of doing it? They are thinking this through very logically. They are not acting illogically compared to the United States. So I don't know. By the way, one other thing I wanted to, maybe you've seen it or not, in yesterday's CENTCOM press release, as well as a week ago, there were the words, "These strikes were directed by President Trump." I might have mentioned that before, but I'm not sure on your podcast that's very unusual. Typically, the military just says what it's doing, end of story. They don't say, we did this because the president told us to. Well, hell yeah, everything the military does, the president tells us to do it. I have two hypotheses about this. One, the politicos in CENTCOM from the White House told them, put that in there so everyone knows the president said to do it. That's that tough guy beating his chest crap. Or it could be, which I hope it's not this, but it could be the military saying, the president told us to do this. It's asinine and stupid, but we're doing it. Now, do I think that's really happening? I don't think so. I think it's a Politico putting it in there. But you don't usually say ever in a military press release, we're doing this because the president told us to do it. Wink, wink. That's weird. That's weird.
I did notice that. By the way, just a heads up, General, when you tap the table, it makes a loud sound for the audience.
Sorry about that. I got excited there for a minute.
That's okay. No, I did notice that. I didn't bring it up because I didn't know whether it was normal or not. So
it's not normal.
It's interesting that you brought it up. All right. So we've talked about the targeting, including the report that just came in. Okay. So I haven't asked you the question. I mentioned it at the beginning that the American retaliation last night was weaker than previously. My question is to get your thoughts on it. Your answer is like, it doesn't, don't look too much into it because based on everything else, it looks like the US is preparing for something bigger.
I would say that it was a measured response. And I use that word measured, like they had to do something while everything else is going on, meaning preparation for perhaps something much larger. So I would say that it was thoughtful and measured. I wouldn't call it weak. I would just call it measured. I do believe nothing should be thought of that it was because of a weak United States or didn't have the capability. Those are false hypotheses.
The Iranians did also warn yesterday that, I'll read out the exact statement, we won't wait any longer for the enemy to increase strikes against our vital infrastructure. We have begun to implement a phased plan, which will end with the complete destruction of all regional energy and water purification infrastructure if the U.S. aggression against Iran does not immediately stop. As part of the first stage of this plant, all power plants and water desalination plants in Kuwait are now part of our target bank. And, they've delivered on that threat. Could this play a role well, the Saudis the Arab League just called for an immediate de-escalation between the US and Iran, urging both sides to return to negotiations and prevent further regional escalation. And the UAE put out a similar report yesterday saying, a similar statement yesterday saying we call for immediate de-escalation. So you've got on one side, you got the Iranians saying, hey, we're not going to wait for the US to kind of gradually degrade our capabilities. We're going to restart striking energy infrastructure in the Gulf pretty quickly, like already, and they've already started doing that. Another warning was given yesterday by the Iranians saying, in the next 2 to 3 days, if the American attacks continue, we're going to change our rules of engagement into full-blown war. We're not going to wait for tit for tat anymore. And those 2 to 3 days end tomorrow or the day after, so Monday, Tuesday. And now the Gulf, just now the Arab League, and before that the UAE, are putting out statements calling for immediate de-escalation. Would love to get your thoughts on all these.
So, if, for example, that power plant or if that's all true, I have to make sure to say that if that's all true, that the Iranians have targeted a Kuwaiti civilian.
That's power Kuwaiti. The Kuwaitis have confirmed it themselves. The officials, Kuwaiti Ministry of Defense.
If that's the case, then that is, in my opinion, a major escalation, because what they're doing is they're saying, see, we told you. And now what's going to happen is, although I would not hope it would be the case, but that would, quite frankly, empower Trump in his brain to be able to say, we are going to do the same in Iran, and that we'll target civilian infrastructure because you are doing it to us. That doesn't make it right. It just means that I can see that happening. If that happens, we're talking about it affecting hundreds of thousands and potentially millions of people in the Middle East who rely on power and water. And so I think that's something that's very dangerous, very, very dangerous. I hope that the Arab League and other nations can help, quite frankly, get this to de-escalation. It will help no one.
Yeah, this is a Kuwaiti port. That satellite image came out yesterday. The Ministry of, not the first, Ministry of Interior announced 2 days ago, I think. Let me see if I can find it. That their energy infrastructure is being struck, their power plants and desalination plant. The desalination plant was like a big taboo. We call it the D word. That's what I showed earlier. That's the power plant in Kuwait. That video just came out today. And yesterday, what the Kuwaitis have said as well, let me actually get it for you. Oh, let me show you the desalination plant as well in a second. But Kuwaiti announced that Iran targeted and destroyed another power plant, another water desalination plant, and another power plant was damaged and targeted and damaged. The Kuwaiti Petroleum Corporation said one of the vital sites in the oil sector was subjected this morning to repeated brutal Iranian attacks. That could be the satellite image we showed earlier, resulting in a number of injuries and significant material losses. Yeah, so this is the infrastructure being struck. I'll show you here. This is a desalination plant in Iran. Images coming out on Iranian TV. If you can show that, KK, I'll just send it to you. Showing the desalination plant in Iran being completely destroyed. I had images of the one in Kuwait was damaged. And then I'm going to show you. Go ahead.
Okay, so wait, I'm sorry. You said that a desalination plant in Iran was damaged?
No, destroyed. This is it.
Oh, destroyed.
Yeah, in Iran and Kuwait. So the one in Iran, this is where it gets interesting. The one in Iran, if you can show this map, KK, was struck on Kish Island, the one I know of, unless there's another one struck somewhere else. This one is the one was on Jasik. It's called the Bunji desalination plant. And the one before that was on Kish. They struck more than one desalination plant. And if you zoom in on this, it is important here. Kish is an island. Jasik is, on the at the southern end of southeast Iran and Bandar Jasik. I think this is, unless there's another Jasik in Iran. Let me see. But the one in Kish, the fact it's an island. Malcolm Nance, he's mentioned something really interesting. He's like, Mario, the fact that this was on Kish Island, I'm going to check where Jasik is. Can you find Jask? Is there an island called Jask, by the way, KK? Is that the US, what they're doing is degrading Iran's ability to supply water to the people on that island in order to conduct a raid or ground operation. That was his interpretation of it. So the Bandar Jasik is southern end, could be similar as well. It's hard to supply it though. If you can show that, KK, with Bandar Jasik, so the audience could also relate to it. Show that on Google Maps. So Bandar Jasik is just on the line, difficult to supply. It's like an edge and like a peninsula. And Kish is just, oh, this is it here. But if you can zoom in on Google Maps, it shows, and if you zoom in, it shows how difficult it is supplying the water, kind of the water going through the land. And there's only one route into Bandar Jasik, only one road that goes in there. But yeah, so this, the way he interpreted this could be the preparation for some sort of ground operation.
While it is possible, it is an indicator that the military is trying to make it very, very painful for the specific regions that perhaps there are military or there are capabilities there. So by striking, I'm hoping, I mean, because I don't know, if those desalination plants are principally there to support the military for Iran, then that could be a potential valid target. The question is going to be if they attack power plants and desalination plants whose primary mission is to provide fresh water and power for civilians, then that is very dangerous escalation, no matter which side does it first.
And this is just, you can see the supplying there. This is linked to the land. It's not an island. The Kish one is an island. But you see there's one route that goes into it. And talking about Kuwait earlier, just now, the Al Subiya power plant, you could remove the image. Al Subiya power plant sustained limited damage following an Iranian strike today. It is Kuwait's largest power station and a major desalination facility. So it's both desalination and power station. Kuwait says the national grid remains stable with repairs underway and some units being taken offline as a precaution. This is the largest power station that was targeted. So the Iranians said, if the US continues striking our infrastructure, we're going to strike Gulf infrastructure. And they proved that they mean what they say by striking Kuwaiti infrastructure.
Well, this is, again, prior to our conversation here, I was unaware that that was actually occurring. And this is indeed a significant escalation by both sides, particularly if the one with the Kuwait is servicing civilian populations predominantly.
It is. It's their biggest power station.
Not good. I tell you, if you recall earlier in our conversation today, I said that I do believe this is going to get significantly worse in the next few days. What you just gave me as far as information that I did not have, I am now upping my probability to very, very high probability things are going to get really bad in the this coming week.
Yeah, and I would agree, because why would the US strike Iranian infrastructure knowing Iran would strike Gulf infrastructure if there isn't something planned, if there is a good reason to do so? That is the concern. It's like they're jeopardizing the Gulf as a whole, as a region.
Right.
It's being jeopardized right now. For the Americans to do that, there must be something big on the other side where it's worth that risk. And this is what concerns me.
No, I share your concern. This is something where the next day by day, this week, be ready. Yeah.
Agree.
Not good. This is definitely not. This is probably the worst, highest risk situation I've heard of so far in the Middle East over the past several months.